Looking for real stories that lift you up? Welcome to Inspire and Impact, the podcast where purpose meets perseverance. This is where transformation begins and your story continues.
Welcome to the Inspire and Impact podcast show. I'm your host, Daniel Rosenstein. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Mark Struczewski. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I am so thankful to be here to serve you and your guests, or your listeners, I should say. I'm the guest. I'm here to serve your audience.
Can you maybe introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little about yourself, like who you are, your background?
I am known as Mr. Productivity, M-I-S-T-E-R, Mr. Productivity. It's important if you try to find me on social media or you're trying to find my website. I am passionate. What really lights me up, what makes my heart sing, is helping people get out from being overwhelmed. I see a lot of people who are overwhelmed. They're stressed, they're fatigued, they're exhausted, and that's no way to live a life. So my mission on life, my passion in life, is to help people live a freer life.
Fantastic. So you also talk about like your early childhood routines and how discipline shaped your adult life. What was one childhood habit that still influences your productivity today?
I was born in 1965, and I was raised in a home where chores had to be done at a certain time and they had to be done correctly. So when I used to come home from school, I couldn't go outside and play with my friends until my chores were done and they were done correctly. And because I was raised in a very structured home, that led me to become the future Mr. Productivity, because I don't like clutter, mental or physical clutter. I don't like things being done halfway. I like things being done the way they're supposed to be done, because that actually saves you time if you do it right the first time. Then if you kind of like, I'll do it halfway, and then you have to come back and do it again. So that is the lesson I learned from my late parent.
Excellent. So you've known for your early morning discipline and your daily running. What do you believe? What discipline unlocks the motivation alone that's really important?
I compete against myself. So I'm not trying to beat anyone on social media. I'm not trying to, as a daily runner, I'm not trying to beat other runners. I'm trying to compete against myself. And so I use an app that is called Streaks, Streaks. It's available on iOS and Mac, but you can get any habit tracker app. And what happens is, if you're going to set a goal and you want to write your goals down every day, you want to spend 15 minutes reading a book, you want to spend 10 minutes a day meditating, you set this up as a habit. And every time you do it, that number goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And for me and a lot of my clients, what happens is, at some point that number reaches a certain number that if you decide to take a day off, you look at that number, and if I don't do this habit today, then I have to start over at 1. And that's why, even though I have a habit of taking a cold shower every morning, I still track it. Even though I've been running every day for over 8 years, I still track it, because that number, which is over 3,000 days in a row I've been running, makes me realize that if I take a day off, it's going to be going all the way back to 1. Can you imagine going from over 3,000 days in a row back to number 1? And so I encourage people to compete against themselves. That is the best person to compete against. Beat your yesterday, but get so good today that tomorrow beats today.
So you coach like thousands of people around the world on productivity. So in all your experiences, what's the most common mindset block that people, have that's keeping them stuck to being more productive and, less stressful?
The number one obstacle in people's lives is themselves. They have a negative mindset. They have a negative slur of words that come out. They're saying, I could never, I can't, it's not my lot in life, excuse after excuse. And if you look at the most successful people in our world today across any industry, you don't hear them complaining. You don't hear them making excuses. They just do the work. And so the number one obstacle I see in people, not just my clients, on social media, out in public, is they are in their own way. I believe everyone has genius inside them, but they're blocking themselves.
So what inspired the creation of your distraction detox framework? What's the first digital habit that most people need to detox immediately?
What inspired my digital detox is people were so distracted. They are trying to have a conversation with someone. They're trying to watch something on television. They're in church or their synagogue or whatever. And I see that they are captured by what I call the pandemic of FOMO. Everybody's got to be on their devices and they're living through their phones instead of living real life. And the more I started seeing this, I'm like, this is really wild. This is not an annoyance. This is a pandemic. It affects virtually everyone, unless you're one of the high performance people, the successful people. It affects everyone because everyone is glued to their phones. And what I encourage people to do is I give them an exercise. For the next hour, if you can make it an hour, write down every time you are distracted, every time you're distracted. So this could be your neighbor's dog barking. It could be a helicopter flying over your house. It could be someone blowing their horn out in front of your house. Write down every time you're distracted. Most people can't go more than 10 to 15 minutes because they look at their list and they're like, oh my goodness, I've been distracted this many times in 12 minutes. Now you know how bad the problem is. Now you can start correcting it. See, correcting the problem is not the issue. I've got to make people understand how distracted they truly are. And most people are telling themselves stories. They're justifying, I'm not that distracted, when in reality they are.
You said before, like distraction is often a symptom of deeper issues. What hidden distraction patterns even high performers have?
We're all humans. We have not been replaced by AI. And so everybody has different distractions. It may be perfectionism. It may be, I'm not good enough. It may be imposter syndrome. Everybody, it's very difficult to answer that question because everybody is going to struggle with something different. And what I want people to understand is making excuses is not the answer. First, you have to name the problem. Where am I being distracted? What is holding me back? Once you solve that problem, once you bring awareness to your head that this is the issue, then you can begin solving the problem.
You talked a lot about the O-Day method. What mistakes do people make when prioritizing their task, and how does the O-Day correct it? And can you share the audience what exactly is the O-Day method so that everybody's on the same page?
Well, the O-Day method is ODAE. It stands for outsource, delegate, automate, and eliminate. And what the O-Day exercise is for about 2 or 3 days, and I don't like to be absolute, but go as long as you can capture probably 80% of what you do. And after you get that list, I want you to go away 60 to 90 minutes, and I want you to go through every task on that you wrote down and ask yourself, can this be outsourced? Can this be delegated? Can this be automated? Can this be eliminated? And then, this is the key part, you actually outsource everything that can be outsourced. You actually delegate what can be delegated. You automate anything can be automated. We live in 2025. We're about ready to hit 2026. A lot of stuff can be automated. And then the E is my favorite letter. Are you doing stuff that doesn't need to be done? And once you get that done, as long as you don't replace it with some other rubbish, you're going to free yourself up for the stuff that you should really be doing. See, a lot of people are trying to do too much. They're trying to do all the stuff that doesn't need to be done. They're trying to do all the stuff that can be outsourced or delegated or automated, plus they're trying to do the stuff that only they can do. And what happens is they become overwhelmed. When if you go through the O-Day exercise and get rid of that stuff that you don't need to be doing, and then you can focus on the stuff you should be doing. You're going to have a lot more stuff to get the stuff done that you really need to work on, and probably is more enjoyable for you.
So your end of day rituals people do at the end of the day teaches people to close out the day clean. What's the biggest mistake people have after 5 p.m. that sabotages the next day?
When people get to the end of the day, they're fooling themselves because they don't get to the end of the day. They think that they have transitioned from work to home, and this really affects people who work from home, is they're like, okay, I'm done. Let me just check email one more time. Let me go check Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn and see if I have any DMs. Let me respond to comments. And so instead of it being black and white, I'm on the clock, I'm off the clock. It's a gray area. And what I encourage people to do is create office hours for yourself. So I'm going to work, I don't care what the hours are, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You pick whatever hours work for you. But when you get to quitting time, actually be off the clock. I'm a productivity coach. Nobody's going to call me at 9 o'clock at night and saying, I got a productivity emergency. Most people are like this. Most people can go off the clock. And I think it's healthy for you to go off the clock. So I encourage everyone to think about their own situation home. My wife and I, we're empty nesters. We have 2 dogs. If you have 4 kids at home, your shutdown routine may be a little bit different. But everybody listening to this podcast can create for themselves a shutdown routine. And you need to do it because your brain needs to switch from business to I'm spending time with my family.
So you love systems over hacks. What's one system you use today that you wish you started 10 years ago?
Taking a few minutes at the end of every day to think about what I'm going to do tomorrow. Most people are just winging it. They're just like, maybe I'll work on this or work on that. They don't have a plan. And when you're thinking about what needs to get done tomorrow, a lot of productivity people on the internet will say, pick the 3 things you need to do tomorrow. I don't like that number. I told you earlier, I don't like absolutes. Maybe you only have to do 1 thing tomorrow. Maybe you got to do 6 things tomorrow. Don't focus on the number, because what I see happens is people go, I got 1 thing to do tomorrow, but oh my gosh, everyone says I got to have 3 things. What are 2 more things? They make up something. You may only have to do 1 thing tomorrow. You may only have to do 2 things tomorrow. So don't focus on the number. Focus on what actually needs to get done.
Dude, and you help leaders double their output without burnout. What's been the number one productivity lie that entrepreneurs still believe?
That they have to do it all. That the number one lie that not only leaders and executives tell themselves is, I'm the only one that could do it the best. I have to do this. And instead of outsourcing, delegating, automating, or eliminating, they're trying to do everything themselves. And you have things that you're really, really good at. And if you're trying to do everything, well, you're going to be doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing because other people should be doing it because they can probably do it better than you. And so you're diluting your efforts by doing all this other stuff and the stuff you're really good at, which you're not really going to be really good at because now your focus is not like a laser beam. It's all over the place.
What's the biggest difference between how top performers structure their day with their systems, their mental habits versus anybody else?
Leaders and high performers do one thing that a lot of people don't, and it's summed up in one word: intentionality. They don't hope they get to what needs to get done. They don't, oh man, if only this thing gets done. They sit there, like I said earlier, they look at tomorrow, the night before, and think to themselves, what can I do tomorrow that's going to move my mission, my vision, my goal forward? What are those things I need to do? So a lot of people who are not successful are just winging it. They're living life on hope and a prayer, where high performers, leaders who are really good at what they're doing, successful people are very intentional about what they're going to do tomorrow, next week, next month, next quarter. And that is the big difference: intentionality.
So how do you help leaders shift from reactive mode to intentional mode when their job constantly throws curveballs at them? In today's world, like things are really fast paced, especially with AI. So how can we, adapt to this?
Switching from reactive to proactive mode is going to sound a little bit interesting. Let's put it that way. You need to stop. So many people are in knee-jerk reaction. So when a problem happens, they react to it. Stop a minute, zoom out. Don't zoom in, zoom out, and ask yourself, how important is this? Because the person coming to you, to them, it's the most important thing that needs to be answered at this time. They think the house is on fire. Maybe the house is not on fire. And so leaders and high performers and anyone who wants to become really successful and very productive need to take a moment and allow their brain to think about the situation. It may very well be critical, or it may be critical to them, but it's not critical to you. So give yourself 5, 10, 15 seconds to think about how important is this. If it's not important, delay it.
So you specialize in helping people reclaim 10 plus hours a week. What are the biggest time leaks you see like people consistently have?
Social media. Social media is the biggest time suck we have, and AI is catching up to it. I see a lot of people talking to their favorite AI like it's the bartender, their therapist, their counselor, and it's not like 5-10 minutes long. We're talking hours upon hours of conversations. Instead of talking to family members and friends and neighbors, everybody's living in the digital world. Now, I love the digital world. I love social media. I love AI. But social media and AI is really rotting our brains. I look at it this way. It's a tool. Like out my garage, I have a toolbox that has a hammer, pliers, screwdrivers, but this tool, AI is a tool. Social media is a tool. It's not a question of what tools should I use. It's what tools, plural, should I use?
So in your coaching, can you maybe share a client story that you've worked with where you not only help them reduce overwhelm and be more productive, but it also completely transform their life?
I had a client come to me who was an executive at a company. They had a side hustle they were really passionate about that brought out their creative side, and they had an adult sister that was mentally disabled. They were so overwhelmed. They were working from before sunrise to well into the night on their corporate job. They were not able to do their side hustle, which allowed them to be creative. And they were trying to take care of their adult sister with mental needs in between. And they were so stressed out. And I was able to help them set up a schedule where they had time for their corporate job, where they had time for their sister who lived with them, and they were able to do their creative side hustle and spend time with people that meant a lot to them in their lives.
What's one counterintuitive or unpopular truth about overwhelm that people resist, even though it could set them free?
One of the biggest hacks I give to people, strategies, tips, whatever word you want to use, goes against what people think. There's a saying that I've been saying for years on my podcast. You can be busy being productive, but just because you're busy doesn't mean you're productive. But sometimes the most productive thing you can do is nothing. I mean, nothing. You go out in your backyard, you put your bare feet on the ground, you're not on your phone, you're not even reading a book. You're just sitting there and you're maybe listening to the birds tweet, or you're listening to the wind blow through the trees. People think, but you're being lazy. No, you're actually being productive because you're actually allowing your brain and your body to rest. People associate being productive with doing something. Maybe the secret is doing nothing.
Wow, I'm surprised. I wasn't expecting you to say that. I thought you could give another mental hack where you said, you know, like stay off more social media more, put a limit on that. Before we spoke a lot about AI and having about AI improve habits. What must professionals master to stay relevant in an AI driven future without, losing their productivity because of AI?
In order to be the most productive version of yourself, regardless of what you do in this world, I don't care what your title is, you got to learn a very important truth. You are not a robot. You are not AI. You do have limitations. That's what makes you you. So understand if you got to do something and you're like, I don't know how to do it, you have two choices. You can learn or you can get someone else to do it. But you got to realize that if you don't take care of yourself mentally and physically, if you don't get rest, if you don't eat properly, if you don't hydrate, if you don't give yourself breaks, you're going to break down. AI is going to keep on rolling. Robots going to keep on rolling, but you may break down. So you need to take care of yourself. And please understand, and maybe you have to say it out loud, I am not AI. I am not a robot. I'm a human being, and you need to take care of yourself.
So you think that productivity is 80% mindset, 20% strategy. What mindset should have changed your own personal life the most?
It goes back to what I just said. I am not a robot, and I need to understand that I need to listen to my body and go, okay, am I feeling overwhelmed, fatigued, tired, frustrated? Maybe I need a break. I just shared that sometimes doing nothing is productive. If you are trying to have a productive day and you're not feeling it, maybe you need to take the rest of the day off. I know this makes a lot of people shake and break out in a cold sweat, but maybe the answer is today's not your day. Maybe you reschedule those calls, you reschedule those podcast interviews, you just relax, binge watch some TV or go for a walk or go see a movie or something. Maybe that's what you need to do. So many people are pushing a rope, and what they're trying to do is stuff that they're not in the mental mindset to do. And I just want to give them permission to extend themselves grace. You can't be productive 7 days a week, every waking moment. You're going to have good days and bad days. And when you have a day you're not feeling it, then just call an audible and say, you know what, this isn't my day, and be okay with it. Get back to it tomorrow and go enjoy the rest of today.
So if somebody falls behind in life or with a career or business, how do you help them reset their internal narrative?
If you, again, if you are having a bad day, it's just a bad day. But if you notice that your bad day becomes a bad week, becomes a bad 2 weeks, maybe you need to think about, am I doing what I should be doing? Because I believe everyone was created for a reason. Nobody's an accident. But maybe you think you should be going down this street, but you should be going down the other street. And you got to be paying attention to these signs. Maybe the world is telling you, hey, you want to go down here, but you know what? You're really good at this. Someone else had to tell me I was really good at being productive. I was just productive, and I thought everyone was productive until someone saw something in me and said, hey, you need to share this gift with the world. I was going down a completely different road. So you need to pay attention to those in your inner circle, people in your life who know you really well. And they may say to you, why are you doing this when you're really good at that? And then it could wake you up. So be sure you're listening to those. This is important. Be sure you're listening to those people you trust, not just anybody, but do you trust these people who are giving you feedback?
Your philosophy, what's your philosophy on slow seasons? In many businesses, they have some seasons are ups and downs. So people embrace these slow seasons or try to fight them to make their lives better.
We have 4 seasons on our planet. We have winter, which is followed by spring, which is followed by summer, which is followed by fall, which what happens? Followed by winter. If you are in a slow season, maybe you call it fall, maybe you call it winter, honor that. don't try to fight it, because there may be things going on that you're not aware of. Maybe you're about to come down with some illness or something. Don't fight it. Now, I'm not saying don't do anything. Don't be lazy for the entire season, but listen to yourself. Maybe this is the time for rest. Maybe this is the time for you to go take a vacation for a week or two. So don't fight it. Now, if it goes on for longer than you think is normal for your situation or your life, that's a totally different issue. But I would say embrace the slowness, because you may come out of a slow period and be really busy. And now, because you spent the time fighting it, now you're like, wow, I wish I would have rested. Now I have to get on my game, and you may not be as effective as you normally would.
That you teach a short, quick 3-minute focus fix. What's one micro action listeners to this podcast right now can take today to help them instantly reduce overwhelm?
The quickest way to reduce overwhelm is to stop. Now, this stopping doesn't have to be dramatic. If you're out driving your car, don't stop in the middle of the road, okay? But maybe you just get up from your desk, whether you work from home or the corporate world, and go outside for 5 minutes. Don't talk to anybody. Don't be on your phone, and just be fully present. Listen to what's going on around you. I call these micro breaks, and a lot of people dismiss them because they believe, again, if you're not doing something, you're not being productive. But I have coached people who have asked me, what do I do if I can see the finish line and I'm really tired, I'm mentally drained, and you're telling me to go take a micro break? And I always ask them this question: would you rather be limping and crawling, bloodied and bruised across the finish line, or would you rather sail across the finish line like Usain Bolt? And they go out and take a micro break, and then they send me a text or email, and they go, oh my goodness, I can't believe what that 5-minute micro break did for me. It's amazing. So it takes 5 minutes. If you're not feeling it, please give yourself a micro break.
So what are your top 3 non-negotiables for people to have a productive morning?
You need to have, you have the most control of your day in the morning. So you need to be very intentional about how you start your morning. Everybody has a morning routine. The issue is most people's morning routines is different every day because they really don't have a structured morning routine. I have a very structured morning routine. I have been tweaking my morning routine for 15 years, and I'll continue to tweak it as the years come in the future. You need to sit down, look at your family situation, your living situation, and figure out how can you start the day to give you the best chance of having a productive day. It's okay to learn from other people like me and other experts out there, but you need to create your morning routine that's going to best serve you. Again, if you're single, you have more flexibility. Or if you're just married to one person, you have no kids. If you have a house full of kids, it's going to be different. But you can start the day intentionally to set yourself up for a great, productive day.
So how does somebody know when they either need a system upgrade or a mindset shift?
You know, it's hard to answer that question because if you're feeling overwhelmed, fatigued, exhausted, you just have no hope, that's probably an indication that you need an upgrade of some sort. Maybe you need to get a coach. Maybe you listen to a podcast. Maybe you need to go buy a book, go get a course. Everyone knows there's something missing. And then you start doing I like doing journaling. That's my best therapy, is to journal. People know when things aren't right and they need to improve.
You have a keynote called productivity addiction. How can somebody recognize when productivity becomes a trap rather than a tool?
Productivity can become an addiction when you are always worried about working on things or tracking things or talking to people and you're like, I'm not watching any television. I'm not going to any ball games. I'm not going out with my friends to dinner and a movie. I'm just going to work and sleep and work and sleep. That may be a sign that you're addicted to productivity. I'm Mr. Productivity, and I have days where I don't feel like doing anything. And anybody tells me that I'm being lazy, I tend to distance myself from them because, again, we are humans. We are not designed to work 24/7, 365. We are designed to have good days and bad days. We are designed to go forward and go backwards. So listen to what's going on in your life, listen to your brain, listen to your body, and adjust accordingly.
So what's the difference between having a healthy ambition and burnout as versus, burnout disguised as discipline?
Trying to figure out how I want to answer this question. See, burnout is because you are not listening to your body and you're just going. It's kind of like the runner I'm a daily runner. It's like the runner who is running a marathon and around the 9th mile, the 10th mile, the 15th mile, they start getting pains. You can either go through the pain or you can quit. Now, sometimes going through the pain could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. You could hurt yourself. So I think you need to be very cognizant. If you're always thinking about work, if you're always thinking that I'm being lazy because I'm watching the ball game or I'm watching TV with my family, you could be getting short-term gains for a long-time problem. And I just want people to understand that burnout is not black and white. It sneaks up on you, and all of a sudden, you're in the hospital. Maybe you're having chest pains or whatever because you weren't watching the signs. Imagine in your life you have a dashboard with all these lights on it, and the dashboards start flashing. And if you don't pay attention to that, you could very well be in a world of hurt.
So out of your 1,300 plus podcast episodes that you did, and I saw, I was very impressed. You're definitely a very productive person. What conversation impacted you the most on your podcast and changed how you show up in life?
Interesting. It had nothing to do with productivity. So since I was a young child, I've always been fascinated with Mount Everest, the tallest point on this planet. And I had a gentleman on my show who summited Mount Everest. And it's a fascinating conversation, one of my favorites on the show. And what I got from that, he shared how he was 500 feet from the summit. Picture that in your mind, 500 feet from the summit. And he had to turn around and go back because his oxygen regulator froze. Can you imagine being 500 feet away from your goal? And as he was coming back down, one of the other climbers was coming up and he said, "Where are you going?" He goes, "My regulator froze up. I got to go down because there's no oxygen up here." He goes, "Oh, let me help you out." He undid his oxygen regulator, put it in his thermos of coffee. It thawed it, and he was able to finish the summit to Mount Everest. What did I get from that? Is you never give up. When you think it's time to give up, maybe you just keep on going a little longer. I've been posting on social media for 3 months and nothing's happening. Don't give up yet, because I believe it gets darkest right before it gets light. And so don't give up. If you feel that you're doing what you should be doing, don't give up.
So you've asked your audience to reclaim 10 plus hours per week. But I want to ask you that question about yourself. If suddenly you got an extra 10 hours somehow by, shifting your schedule around, what will you do with those 10 plus hours?
Easy question to answer for me. If I got 10 extra hours a week, I would use that for reading a print book. Some books I study, some books I read. There's a difference between reading a book and studying a book. But if I had 10 extra hours a week, I would spend all 10 hours reading and learning, and not just about productivity and neuroscience and health and wellness and time management. I would be reading books about subjects I'm fascinated about. I just love reading.
So what's the message you ultimately want your audience and the world, of course, to remember about productivity, success, and living a meaningful life?
Productivity is up to you. Stop complaining if you're not productive. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop making excuse after excuse after excuse. Own your own productivity. It's nobody else's job for you to be productive. It's nobody else's job to create a morning routine for you. It's your job. So instead of blaming other people, learn how to be the most productive version of yourself.
Oh, Mark, if somebody had a question about our podcast today or interested in working with you, what are the best ways they can reach out to you?
One stop, MrProductivity.com. You have to spell out Mr. M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com. There you can go at the top of my homepage. You're going to see a free productivity scorecard. It's 10 questions. Take the 10 questions. I will send you the results, and then we can have a conversation. You can also find links to wherever I am on social media, my podcast, anything you want to know about me is at MrProductivity.com.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing about your experiences, your knowledge, your wisdom. You definitely know a lot about productivity and reducing overwhelm. I learned a lot from this conversation. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience did too. Do you have any final message you like or anything else you want to mention to our audience before we wrap up our conversation for today?
You get one life. This is all you got, one life. So instead of following people on social media that make you feel bad, horrible, any adjective you want to use, start unfollowing them and follow people that make you feel good. Because if you go on social media and you come off of social media angry, frustrated, overwhelmed, feeling lonely, how are you going to be productive? So follow people and accounts that lift you up, because happy people, healthy people are productive people.
Mark, thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I know you're a really busy guy, and I think you definitely give a lot of value to our audience. So I want to thank you so much for that. So thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.